Good morning, people of the internet. You are listening to Debi Radio 79.5 FM, a podcast where we discuss the movie Grosse Pointe Blank 1 minute at a time. I am your co-host, Hugh David.
And I'm your other co-host, Dev Sodiga. And on today's show, we're going to be looking at minute 46. And joining us on today's show and joining us for this whole week, we have Leslie Byron Pitt, podcaster, film critic. Welcome, Leslie. It's good to have you on.
Hi, how you guys doing?
Good, man. Good.
All good. All good. Yeah, sorry, I keep forgetting video and audio. Yeah. Thumbs up for those who are not seeing us. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to be clipping out that thumb anyway.
Yeah, of course you are. Exactly. So why did I do it? I don't know. Carry on.
Let it out like Crime Watch.
Dev, before we start, let's just have a quick chat about the fact that you like Grosse Pointe Blank. You've seen it before, you know your way around it. How did you first come to the film? When, how?
Right, so my friend of now over 30 years, Hannah, basically came round one day after school with a whole bunch of stuff. She introduced me to a whole bunch of movies. And so she introduced me to John Hughes, and she introduced me to Danny Boyle, and she also introduced me to this film, George Armitage, to Grosse Pointe Blank. And it's a really, really strange thing, because I've got this kind of thing with Grosse Pointe Blank in which it's really similar to Lethal Weapon for me, where I've seen it more than once, like it, and this is in the past, like it fine, can't remember any of it. I literally can't remember any of it. It's a really weird thing, but I think that's mostly because I watched it when I was quite young. 97 film. I would have been in my teens, and even though I watched it, it was probably along those lines when I was just watching a lot of movies anyway. Mm-hmm. So I've seen this. I think it's the third time I've seen this film. That's how I got into the movie. I've always liked it because I always liked John Cusack in that era. Mm-hmm. And one thing about Cusack in that era that's just brilliant, he's just got this kind of, it's almost as if he's looking at almost like everything's like High Fidelity, where he's kind of looking at the camera and going, come with me on this trip. Mm-hmm. And this is really fun because it's way more darker and cynical and against and a very almost Gen X-y thing going all the way through it, which I found really, really funny. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I've never really remembered it as much. It's just that it's a film that once you get older and you're in the same positions as those characters, it grows on you and you see these little things that kind of pop out and just, I don't know, there's a very universal feeling about some of the stuff that goes in there, even though it's about assassins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely. So, Dev, this is your favorite movie of all time, and we have now reached minute 46. So the project is happening. It's going on. It's working.
We're progressing. We've gotten further than a lot of Movies by Minute podcasts at this point. So I'm not upset.
As you like to remind people, I wouldn't know. Running gag, and full disclosure, Les, because you were one of the people, Les, I said last year when Dev first proposed this, I have no idea how anyone talks for an entire podcast run about a movie, right? you and I used to do what, hour and a half per movie?
Yeah.
And then we'd still mention like 5 others, so so it's like,
and then stuff that we have to watch for the next time.
Yeah, so here we are, and Dev, I think we're doing pretty well.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm still really enjoying this process as well, which is kind of important, right? Especially when you end up listening to each of these episodes like 2 or 3 times over during editing, and like all the coordination to make this happen. Like this is fun. I actually did find out recently that there is another podcast that had attempted the Grosse Pointe Blank Movies by Minute thing. And
so gross, much point.
So gross, such point, much blank. And a shout out to them because they were even more ambitious than we were, right? So they did a deep dive into the entire back catalogue of Johnny Nash. They did a deep dive into all of the works of George Armitage, which is an undertaking because I'm not entirely sure I want to watch most of those films, to be honest. But they had entire episodes dedicated to these. They had brand new people on, new to the movie, to interview, and they started the minutes, and it feels like it's died off. I'm going to try reaching out to them and see if we can get them on here.
We absolutely have to team up with them.
It would be great, and I would also love to like maybe inspire them to get back into it with theirs, because they have a different perspective on it, and I think this film warrants a couple different acts on it. But we are doing minute 46. We should probably talk about it at some point in the episode. So we've just had the Ultimate blow up, as Grosse refers to it. And Martin thinks that this is the opportune time to ask Debbie out. And so this entire conversation is a phone call, or this entire minute is a phone call back and forth between Martin and Debbie on, will you meet me for drinks at the Hippo Club tonight?
Well, it is and it isn't. Like, when you start the beginning of it, it's just like, it just blows up. So on the whole Superstore kind of just blows up, and there's this amazing thing. Like, it's really well put together in terms of like how it's edited and nicely put together. Little zoom into the microwave, and blows up and everything. But the thing that I absolutely love is, as it blows up, he rescues this kind of shop kid, this clerk, from it. They jump onto the grass next to it as it blows up. They both roll over, and Cusack kind of rolls into this kind of pose where he kind of rolls onto his hands, and as if it's just this thing that happens to him all the time. And it's just like that.
Like, let's just watch the beauty of the explosion for a moment. Take a minute. We live. Let's enjoy.
And then he turns around and asks if the kid is okay. To which the kid is like, "No, I've hurt myself." What he says? I'm hurt. I'm pissed. And I need to find a new job. And the thing that got me, and again, this is, I think, one of the reasons why when I was younger it didn't hit to me that much. But he's gone back to Detroit. It is, you look at Detroit, and Detroit is this place full of, like, which is, used to be like the heart of America, heartland of working America, which was gutted. And the idea that this guy who looks way too old to be working in that store anyway gets saved, and then he's like, "I've got to find a new job," and it's just this element of kind of where America is at that moment in time, and capitalism. And I only just realized it is like when he's going back after 10 years. All these guys have dreams that they never really realized. They're all in different kind of jobs, and they're all kind of all over the place, and reality's hitting them. And there's something about that moment where this poor guy's going, "I need to find another job," and I'm like, "Oh my god!" It just hit me a little harder than before. There's something about it. There's something about that, and obviously in the minutes beforehand that you guys have talked about, where Dan Aykroyd and Cusack are talking, and the way they talk about things, and the way they talk about their job, I think it's all very telling. And I think there's this underlaying of where people are in work at that moment in time. And it is literally a throwaway line that you won't even think of in that moment. But for me, it just kind of opened my eyes to where that whole film and that whole world is at that moment.
Yeah, this kind of underscores what you were saying earlier about this being something that resonates so much more when you're at the age where, like, your 10-year high school reunion inviters come up. This isn't John Hughes. This isn't Breakfast Club or Say Anything. This is the flip side of that. This is the reality that you face after the bright-eyed optimism of those films that just doesn't manifest for any of us, right? Like, there's always, for pretty much everybody, there is some aspect of their hopes and dreams coming out of high school that just never materializes.
Yeah.
Well,
very much so. I mean, that's the thing. I think that's the thing I really like about it. I mean, it's so 90s. It's such a
Yes.
90s movie, and it's one of those films that kind of fits in with Singles and whatever Cameron Crowe was doing at the time, and Reality Bites and everything else like that. There's this really sardonic undercurrent that goes through the whole movie, and on top of it is this really kind of sparky, bright-eyed, how can I say, like, love story and stuff going on in there. And it's something about George Armitage as well, because I recently watched Miami Blues, and it's the same thing. It's this really weird flip-flopping between kind of campy comedy and something really dark and pretty sinister. And that's what I liked about it. I mean, even in this minute, you know, Ace of Spades is playing on the soundtrack before it blows up, and then he kind of goes into this conversation with it's Debbie, isn't it? Yes. So he goes into conversation with Debbie, Minnie Driver, and there's something about the fact that there's this flaming icon of capitalism just on fire. and then he's having this really like, yeah, you want to meet where we used to drink at the Hippo Club, and it's just like, what?
Love amongst the burning ashes.
And this is just the first minute I'm on, and I'm like, really? Come on. It's really good. It is really good.
Yeah, I have to say that's been, as Dev says, well, this is why we're getting so through it and why we're getting so much out of it, is there is so much every minute. You know, even the ones we thought, oh, they're going to be boring, something's there there that suddenly leaps out, and as you say, the landscape. I mean, the irony that they didn't shoot it in Detroit, they shot it all in LA. It's just like palpable, because okay, you know, LA will allow them to blow something up in the middle of, you know, the suburb, but the message, the theme, the notion of what this is all about is all right there. There's also something interesting we discovered when we were looking through the IMDb, that the person who plays the Ultimate guy is actually one of the, is it sound editor, was it, or casting? I can't remember, but he's appointed to something.
Yeah, location scout, I think.
Location scout, that's his crew member. But the thing is that he's gone on to become an award-winning location person as part of a team of location people. But like, you can just like, I buy his acting, because when he's doing this role, what you just said, that's true of his own job. Easy come, easy go. You know, it's the film business, right?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, so and I think that's quite a nice touch as well.
There's a little bit of editing at play here as well. Right at the end of this minute, you've got Martin driving off, and you know, before this minute ends, we're going to cut to a scene outside the Hippo Club, just, you know, a compositional shot of the Hippo Club. But inserted between those two is one last shot of the Ultimate on fire, right? It's like, okay, this business is out, this new business is in. It's just the American concept of consumerism and commerce and business at play, right? Like, business gone, new business. Business gone, new business.
This is 25 years before Fincher does The Killer.
Yeah. No, but you see, that's the thing, right? I still haven't seen The Killer. And I've read the comic book, but I haven't seen it, and I want to see what he does with it. But one of the things I'm thinking, because is that this, again, we've said this on a few other episodes, but we haven't yet explored it, and hopefully this week we'll get into it with you a bit more as well, is how well Grosse Pointe Blank is holding up, because it predates and prefigures other directors' attempts to use the idea of hitmen and the world of hitmen to comment on things. I mean, you know, you and I, Les, we did a podcast that on Brain, Brad Pitt, Andrew Dominic.
Killing them softly.
Yes, we did Killing Them Softly, and obviously that's also based on, you know, a well-known
Coogan's Trade and.
Yeah, you know, it's Coogan's Bluff. It's Coogan's Trade. Sorry, the point is that it's based on the hard-boiled text of the 70s, 60s, 70s, and Armitage, as you pointed out with Miami Blues, also has a history of that. Also, so that although Grosse Pointe Blank is an original script, there's very much that sensibility at work. And actually, the more I think about it, the more I feel like you could do a really interesting double bill with Grosse Pointe Blank and Killing Me Softly.
Well, you could do a good double bill with Grosse Pointe Blank and The Grifters. You could do a good one with. There was something I wanted to watch. I think it would have been. Yeah, I'll go back to what I said earlier. Reality Bites.
Yes.
There's something about the needle drops. There's something about all of this that is this really interesting kind of soup that's going on, and this 1 minute would be very, very interesting to watch after watching Clerks for some.
Yes,
there's just something about it.
That's a good point.
And then, ironically, in Clerks 2, one of the things that's so funny is the fact that Dante goes to the opening shot of Clerks is him opening up like he did before, and Clerks is on the shop is on fire, and then he has to move on. And like, there is something about what Dev says here, whereas there is just a thing where it's like that convenience store is just blown up, and it just cuts to a bar, and everything's on fire, but it doesn't matter. It's just like everyone has to just get up and go, and that's it. There's something so horribly disposable about that, as well as everyone that's getting shot, because that's the nature of their job as well. It's quite intense when you look at it, and they've just, like I said, they kind of layer this really funny like story and Jerry and Piven and everything else like that. But there's these just little droplets of, this is what we're really thinking at the moment. This is what we're thinking of.
I mean, it's 30 years, since Clerks debuted.
Yeah.
I mean, Sundance has just happened, so it literally is 30 years since it's debuted. That's
mad.
Madness, absolute madness. Of course, it was 94, so that's 3 years ahead of this getting made. This is coming in, on that wave of American indie films of that era, particularly the indie crime ones. But it's got that sense of comedy, as you say, that means it fits in with the Skuniverse stuff, and as you say, Ben Stiller and everybody, what they're doing back then, it feels logical that it all fits together. This is the action movie for that generation, I mean, this is another one. This would go well with is if you watched Heathers than this.
Yeah, I could see that.
That would be quite an interesting combo, because Heathers almost puts a full stop on the John Hughes 80s era, and Hughes goes off to write Little Children, killing, attempting to knock out bad guys, and instead the Brat Pack grow up.
Yes.
And I'm including Cusack in that, and so then you've got first Gulf War, people coming home from that, which very much ties into this.
And you get the feeling that Dan Aykroyd's character has literally just lived it. That's why
absolutely.
So just there's something. I couldn't believe how good he is in this. Watching it again,
he's so good.
You forget how good he was. He's not dead, but like you forget how good he is as an actor. He just hasn't done anything. You know what I mean? Like there's that element of you haven't seen him in a lot of stuff. He didn't.
I know.
Like,
he just presents reality TV.
Yeah, and you see him in here, and he's got these little visual ticks, and the way he walks backwards, and the interplay with him and Cusack. I mean, it's not this minute actually that we're talking. He's in here.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah. But the interesting thing about this minute for me is the fact that you got two really. It's a quick shot of two really good TV actors in Hank Azaria, who became. Who most is like from The Simpsons and all these things, but his movie career isn't as well known-ish at times as the fact that he's in The Simpsons. And I really wanted to bring him up. K. Todd Freeman, who, and I was like, where have I seen this guy before? Where have I seen this guy before? Where have I seen this guy before? And it's Buffy.
Yep.
And it's a very similar performance. It's a very similar performance. This kind of cool not even a hitman. It's almost like a bounty hunter kind of guy.
Yeah.
And he's out of the two characters, because they're sitting in a car as this thing explodes. He's the only one that has a line, and he's just cool as it just explodes. It's really again. It's quite. There's something quite funny about that, knowing where he goes next with stuff like Buffy, and and everything. And
I think, like, we've mentioned this before, but I think it's a real testament that he keeps up to Hank Azaria, right? Like, Hank Azaria is known. He's been in Friends. He's been in Simpsons. He's a known character, right? And K-Todd Freeman keeps up with him in these like very, very tight scenes that require both characters to really play it up.
Yes.
And I think one of the big lamentations that Hugh and I both have is that those two characters don't get more screen time, because I'm sure there is some great footage of those two playing off against each other on the cutting room floor that I would love to see. And I'd love it to be a longer film if that's what's included. There are definitely a few things that could have been cut. I feel we had that a couple weeks ago.
Oh yeah, that's true. But you were like, and I was like, no, it's not that bad. And you were like,
It was a rough 5 minutes. That house viewing is not my favorite part of the film, but
I love it. I think it's hysterical, but only because it's so. But it makes you so uncomfortable as well. It was really interesting to explore.
It is humor that seems like it's coming from a different place.
Precisely, that's what we were saying. I was saying this is the beginning of the Piven era. This is Entourage on its way, right? This is him. Starting off, but also that social class thing as well. You literally have three people who once upon a time were all together in their school class, and now they're all literally by height and doing different things and different presents.
I feel with the cutting room floor stuff of Azaria and Freeman, I think a lot of that is built off of Armitage's fears of repeating Miami Blues. Yeah. It's because he didn't want those characters to be too appealing to the audience. He was afraid that if they were too liked by the audience, then the end of the movie, which I'm not going to spoil because why would I do that, would play out badly for audiences, right? Because audiences wouldn't want to see that outcome.
Yeah, your sympathies have to be in a very particular place because they are government agents. And even though, as we've discussed, we were pretty convinced that both Grosse and Blank are ex-government, the fact is they are private contractors now. And so it's that classic thing of the American indie private contractor versus the government. And there's a certain degree of casual cynicism on the part of the government agents because they're just they know that they can just get away with stuff.
Yes.
So, right. So as we come to the end of this, we get to the outside of the club, and we've practically glossed over the conversation with Minnie Driver in this. And I think we should talk about it at the start of the next episode.
I think so. Also, I think there's a lot more conversation between these two to come up.
Precisely. So I think we should
5 minutes, and I think we'll
tag it on there. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So,
in that case. This was minute 46 of the Grosse Pointe Blank podcast, Debi Radio 79.5 FM, featuring your hosts, co-writers and co-producers, myself, Dev Sodiger, and my buddy, Hugh David.
Today's guest, Leslie Byron Pitt, podcaster, broadcaster, film critic, essay writer, general man about town. Leslie, where can people find you online if they want to talk to you?
Anywhere where the name AfroFilmViewer is.
Yes. Which, interestingly enough, nobody has ever nicked off you. You've had this for years now.
Yeah, I'm getting a bit worried,
Yeah, no, it's great. If I see that name, I know it's actually you, which is kind of crazy on the internet. And that's across all social media platforms as well as articles, blogs. Yeah. Folks can also find him. You've written for Empire Magazine here in the UK before. Yes. And you've been occasionally on UK TV and radio, haven't you, as well?
Yes, indeed. I think the last thing I did an essay for Dennis Hopper's The Hotspot with Radiant Films. So,
who, funnily enough, released Miami Blues the same month. So this is how it all comes together.
I literally bought a copy of before I got on air with you guys.
Yeah.
Because I need to rewatch it again because it's really an odd one, but it's interesting.
Yeah, fantastic. And you can find us on all good podcast players, including the one you are listening to and or watching us on YouTube, Twitter, aka X, Spotify, and in all cases our handle is Debi Radio, DEBI Radio. Also, come to our website, which is debiradio.com. Once more, that's DEBI Radio.
And if you want to talk with us, you can join us on the Facebook listeners group, Debi Radio 79.5 FM Fan Club.
Sure was clear that All of this was new, concentrating hard like a little girl, smoking for the first time. It wasn't a moment, it was a feeling.